Late in the summer of 2004, a team of archaeologists in Northern Ontario discovered canisters of film containing the most important footage in Canadian TV history. The long-lost episodes of Jimmy MacDonald's Canada. For a brief period in the mid-60s, Jimmy MacDonald was the most popular TV star in the country. 10 million Canadians would tune in each week. Then, disaster. After a major on-air meltdown, MacDonald succumbed to paranoia and mass delusion. He renounced television, the medium that had given him so much, so quickly. He decided to move to the Northwest Territories. Flying north, he took every episode of the show with him. Unfortunately, he wasn't trained as a pilot. The plane crashed and MacDonald was presumed dead. A somber Prime Minister Pearson addressed the nation.
And there are millions of people tonight who, throughout the world, will feel that they have lost a friend.
MacDonald's body was never found. His hit show was thought to be lost forever.
I'm so happy they found the lost episodes of Jimmy MacDonald's Canada. You know, for a time, that show was the country.
I think Jimmy represented everything, you know, that was kind of strange about English Canada.
I remember him with his little thin mustache. He was huge. I mean, you talk about TV ratings. He was bigger than hockey.
I'm holding one of the film canisters discovered by the archaeologists. For someone who writes about Canadian history, this is like holding our Magna Carta.
And now, for the first time in 40 years, CBC presents Jimmy MacDonald's Canada.
Good evening, Canada. I'm Jimmy MacDonald, and I'm going to give it to you straight. There's a new species on this planet, a herd of certain youth that are holding this country hostage. You see them on virtually every street corner, long-haired slobs and slatterns that have no respect for anything that came before them. They're called Hippies. And tonight, the Jimmy MacDonald team is going to give these arrogant laggards the scrutiny they've avoided until now. Who are they? Well, ace reporter Bill Harrington of the Jimmy MacDonald team has some of the answers. He reports to us now from a modern-day Sodom et Gomorrah.
This is Yorkville, where Coke isn't a soft drink, but is short for cocaine, where drugs, or talk about them, form the main recreation, and sex is a poor second. First, the cast of characters. Hippies. They come to do their own thing, return to childhood, make love to anyone, carry around philosophical books they don't understand, and use marijuana and hashish, but look on alcohol as a dangerous addictive, vulgarized in large society. The report concludes that Yorkville is an extremely successful experiment in rebellion against parents and a society who do not understand. But the report wonders what happens to the people who leave here. Do they become liberated, independent, doing their own thing in the large society? Or are the results less positive? Bill Harrington, CBC News, Yorkville.
I'm guessing less positive, Bill. Excellent work. I'm sure many of you go on vacations or trips with your families. Perhaps you pack a picnic lunch and head to one of our many scenic provincial parks. Well, hippies take trips too, but their trips are of a different sort altogether. Here we are inside the mind of a hippie. As the kids themselves say, this is apparently a true and proper acid freak out. Heavens. Here we have some flashing lights, some odd geometric shapes, reconfiguring, luminous worms. Oh my. I apologize, folks, if you've had a couple of highballs. This is probably making you a bit woozy. I know it is me. Well, that's what it looks like when you book yourself a passage on the good ship Narcotica. What possible appeal is there to losing oneself in a sea of squeaks and squiggles? Here's an interview with an actual hippie captured in its own environment. Perhaps he can enlighten us.
How long have you been coming in and out of Yorkville, Peter?
About a year, off and on.
Why do you keep coming back? What's here?
People, I guess.
What people? Why?
I don't know.
What do you do? How do you fill up your day? What happens?
I just try to meet people, I guess.
Mostly sit around.
Yeah.
Doesn't it get boring? Doesn't it get on your nerves?
Yeah, sometimes.
I don't feel enlightened. Do you? Well, perhaps hippies are not a verbal animal. Perhaps they're more comfortable communicating without words. As long as they can jive to their fellow drug addicts performing psychedelic music, everything's tickety-boo. Kissing in public. In my day, courting didn't take place in parks. It was a private affair, conducted solemnly and with utter pessimism. Here we see hippies conveying their artificially induced feelings. First, by patting each other on the, if you'll forgive me, buttocks. Then with a vigorous round of toe-touching. I guess a good old handshake would be to square. I suppose these gestures are just a way of congratulating each other for successfully avoiding all manner of responsibility. Well done, my friends, we've reversed evolution. Keep off the grass, kids. And I mean that literally. Well, folks, I like to do my own thing, too. And right now, I'd like to go to commercial. You and I can have a love-in with commerce. You see, us regular folks have to make and sell things to build a prosperous society so that these psychedelic schlubs can get their important work done of playing footsie en masse. After the break, we'll take a non-pharmaceutical trip to Canada's capital of cannabis heads, Vancouver. But first, enjoy this advertisement from our sponsor, Canada's favorite brand, Provincial Cigarettes. Remember, friends, if you're Canadian, you've got to be provincial.
There are two eras of Canadian journalism as far as I'm concerned, before Jimmy MacDonald and after. He rewrote the rules.
I remember as a kid, I was a member of the Jimmy MacDonald fan club. And like a lot of other people at that time, I got swept up in Jimmy mania.
A friend had told me to watch it. I hadn't watched news programs till then, but I was hooked.
Hello, folks. I'm Jimmy MacDonald, and tonight I'm perplexed, dumbfounded, incredulous, and just plain gobsmacked when it comes to a new creature in Canadian society I call Homo hippius, the hippie. Go west, young hippie, go west. Vancouver is a veritable Shangri-La for counterculture skullduggery. Maybe it's all the rain, but it's fertile ground for long-haired brats who want to dance, prance, and take off their pants. The Vancouver hippie community recently forced an occupation of Stanley Park to stage what they call a human be-in.
We wish to hold a spring festival at Sepperley Park in Stanley Park on Sunday, March 26th, from approximately 1 to 5 p.m. The festival will be billed as a human be-in. It is precisely that, an occasion for the gathering of all people who wish to participate together in music and festivity, simply enjoying each other's presence.
Here we see a deluded young flower child preparing for the deviant spectacle. Start by applying some eye makeup for that gaunt, ghoulish look. Then stick some kind of adhesive dot to your forehead. There's something called an amulet. A few requisite feathers entwined in the hair, acknowledging a completely fraudulent Indian heritage. Then a quick slink through a back alley, and everyone's set. If this is what they mean by getting back to nature, then sign me up for another 30 years behind city limits. Here's some film footage of the salacious gathering in Stanley Park. These young people congregated with the lofty ambition of just being man.
When we walked down the street, they were like looking over at us and smiling, and some of them couldn't quite smile, couldn't quite bring themselves to smile, but almost everybody broke down and smiled as we went past. Yeah. They could see that there wasn't any harm in the situation.
Ah, barefoot in the pond. I guess city hygiene regulations were being flouted along with cannabis laws. Yes, that's what a be-in looks like. I'm sure you are burning to know. It seems that Homo hippies' predilection for loitering in public places has some municipal politicians up in arms. And quite rightly, I might add. Here's our own Doug Collins in conversation with Mayor Campbell of Vancouver.
Now, Mayor Campbell, it's very good of you to take time out from your duties to come down and loiter with me on the public square here. But does it not seem wrong to you that anyone should be apprehended in a public place on account of his appearance?
There has never been any arrest in this courthouse square before, and it was made simply because they were lazy louts who were loitering on the steps of the courthouse, and they had no business doing it, and I fully support what was done. And you can have legal technicalities, you can have whatever you want. We've got a major problem facing the city of Vancouver. We've got a scum community that have organized, have decided to grow long hair, have decided to pretend to be hippies. They want to take everything, give nothing. Half them are American draft dodgers who won't even fight for their own country, who are up here for protection. If they were in their homeland, they'd be in jail. Now, if we were in trouble, if they wouldn't fight for their mother country, what do you think they'd do for their adopted country? Nothing, which is exactly what they're doing now, nothing. The people that the police are looking to are the citizens, or I call them citizens, who are nothing but first-class troublemakers. They are organized. Every do-gooder group in town is trying to support them now, and these people don't deserve any support. I think the support should go to our good youth, our Boy Scouts, the organizations in town, the church, the religious groups, the decent children. Here you're spending, I don't know how much money of taxpayers' money, putting this show on to discuss the hippie problem. Well, I'll show you retarded children. I'll show you good, decent, clean citizens, the children that need help. And what are we doing? We're here, I'm wasting my time talking about hippies. There's no question about it. The scum always comes to the top, and it's come today.
Well said, Mr. Mayor. Give 'em spit. Well, friends, it's time for our weekly visit from Marg Margison, here to offer a woman's advice. Each week, Marg Margison joins us to offer a woman's advice. Marg, you're a breath of fresh air to this square. If a parent discovers that their child is becoming a hippie, what can be done about it?
Well, Jimmy, it's important to remember that rebellion is a part of growing up, and parents must suppress it. Before I met Ernest Margison, the accountant who eventually became my husband, I dreamt about escaping the preordained script my mother and father had written for me. I once even had a rather scandalous encounter with a beatnik, a gorgeous, beret-wearing free spirit named Claude, who wrote steamy blank verse. Alas, it was a deliriously brief encounter. My parents quickly intervened and introduced me to the prosaic Mr. Margison. The rest is financial history. Parents, don't be concerned. This flower power is but a way station on the road to fiscal responsibility. The hippie rebellion will ultimately be suppressed, or simply expire due to lack of funds. Let's build a great Canada. Back to you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Marg. As always, lovely. Just lovely. I'll be back after this advertisement from our sponsor, Provincial Cigarettes. What smooth flavor. What great taste. Remember, if you're Canadian, you've got to be provincial.
I think Jimmy's career was like a supernova. Then poof, it was all over.
I mean, he was weird, sort of, really weird.
Jimmy MacDonald's hair was like a Brillo pad.
Welcome back, friends. I'm Jimmy MacDonald, and I hate hippies with my very spleen. The hippies' quest for supposed enlightenment led them to a very unlikely spot, the Ontario Provincial Legislature, on of all days, Victoria Day. Reporter Hans Pohl of the Jimmy MacDonald team was there to witness the disgusting debacle.
This is the quiet side of Queen's Park. Staid and proper statues of heroes and statesmen looking stoically southward, the bronze remains of times and values past. But behind me, on the other side of the Ontario Legislative Buildings, another scene. It was a coming-out party for Toronto's underground. The hard rock addicts, the electronic composers, the poets, the Yorkville wing of the Company of Young Canadians. They were out to show Toronto by sunlight that they're all right. And on the periphery, smiling mostly, a loosely woven garland of police. One motorcycle constable was even moved to say they should have these things all the time. Back on the South Lawn, Queen Victoria, whose day after all it was, largely went unnoticed, except by some young people with enough energy and love to get her point of view. Hans Pohl, CBC News, Toronto.
Gott im Himmel, get your hands off the Queen. You know what, folks? I apologize, but that leads me to a segment I'm assured is your favorite part of the program. Outrage of the Week. We often receive letters about this portion of the program, and I'd like to read this one aloud. It is from a Donald Borden of 111 Mackenzie Street, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. It reads, Dear Mr. MacDonald, I always watch the Outrage of the Week segment of Jimmy MacDonald's Canada with my soup. Sincerely, Mr. Donald Borden, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Well, Mr. Borden, I'm glad our program enhances your meal, or perhaps snack, out there in small-town Canada. Now, let's do it. I show you 3 pieces of film, and then I tell you which one of them outrages me the most. Today, we're talking about hippies, and here are just 3 of the things that have me quite outraged. Number 1, psychedelic body painting. Here's a real dilly. Using a woman's body as nothing more than a canvas for doodling. Number 2. Ah, yes. Timothy Leary, the Pied Piper of drug culture. A man who lost his marbles to a chemistry set years ago. His mantra, tune in, turn on, and drop out. Mine is, suck it up, simmer down, and snap to it. And finally, number 3, flower power, fashion, and design. Not only is this creepy petunia tripe all over clothes now, you can find it on perfectly innocent appliances, sturdy little stoves, loyal refrigerators. Flower power design is outrageous. But which one of these things outrages me the most? Psychedelic body painting. Remember it. Psychedelic body painting is outrageous. This generation, this baby boom generation, has been spoiled and catered to and made adaptions for since the moment they were born. Why, if I had the whole lot of them, I'd string them up by their shaggy heads and... Enough said. Sic gloria transit mundi. So goes the glory of the world down the tube. Next week on Jimmy MacDonald's Canada, A show that's even more disturbing, if you can believe it, than this one. A show I thought I'd never do. Sexual relations in Canada. Seems we're getting fond of it. And that's a big problem.
Do you think the pill may tend to make women promiscuous?
No, not any more than they are.
I think sex is a part of life, and you have to have it. So, in order to prevent mishaps, a birth control pill is a fine idea.
Do you ever forget?
I forgot once.
And did you get pregnant?
Well, I think I am now.
Congratulations.
It appears some people are having sex for the express purpose of personal pleasure instead of making new Canadian babies. What are people thinking? I'm Jimmy MacDonald, and I'm going to give it to you straight. Good night, Canada. Hug your children.
What?